QPR claimed a well-deserved point at Portman Road last night, and I hate to say it, but could have nicked it right at the end if given an absolute stonewall penalty. So as usual, let's talk through the performance. After a tough run for the Tractor Boys, which saw them pick up 2 points against Norwich, Leeds and Leicester, Kieran McKenna's side would have surely been rubbing their hands together at the prospect of playing Queen's Park Rangers, now winless in 4 matches. Now in theory that's how they should have been feeling, but with 4 key players missing on the night through suspension and injury, including Hurst, Morsey, Broadhead and Burns, they were forced into making a lot more changes than they would have liked from Tuesday night's 1-1 draw with Leicester City. Those absences saw former R Don Ball called to the side alongside Massimo Luongo, who is a more consistent starter for Ipswich. Marty himself made 5 changes to the rather dismal side that played at Millwall. Cook for Dunn, Cannon for Kakai, Dazelle for Lakesh with Powell moving back to left back, Willock for Smith and Armstrong for Dykes. As strong a starting lineup as we could have asked for, to be honest, and one that reiterates something that I was talking about in my last video, which is that a couple of the changes he's been making lately he's been forced into, with the likes of Kakai and Dunn dropping to the bench with stronger players available in front of them. So the first half was one of the stronger 45 minutes that QPR have put together in recent matches. With Cannon and Cook back in the side, the back line was a lot stronger and we were playing the ball around the back with more confidence. Ipswich didn't really touch the ball for the opening 5 minutes, but they did cut us open pretty quickly when they did get on it, with Connor Chaplin looping the ball over the top to Freddie Ladapo, bypassing much of our midfield and defence. But his first touch wasn't great and Jake Clark-Salter cleaned the ball up at the back. After a comfy opening to the game, it was a stark reminder of how quickly Ipswich can open teams up, and a few minutes later another warning was fired. An overhit pass from Jake Clark-Salter to Field. Ladapo picks his pocket and runs at goal, looks certain to score, but his shot is well blocked by Begovic's legs. I did feel that Field was struggling in those opening minutes of the game. He looked a little bit too stiff and cumbersome in that midfield, struggling to turn on the ball, especially with the intensity of Ipswich's high press. But after these 2 pretty solid chances, we kind of limited Ipswich, to be honest, and we spent much more of our time in their final third. Our earliest sniff at goal came on 19 minutes, this time with Elias Chair picking the ball off of Brandon Williams, laying it off to Armstrong, who shrugged off his marker and forced a save from a pretty audacious angle. In the aftermath of the following corner, Chair would again send Powell through on goal, but it was a little bit too heavy for him to capitalise on. I must say I thought Armstrong was pretty good in the first half. He linked up play well, he dropped deep and he made runs in behind, all things that Dykes hasn't been doing recently. Play bounced between the 2 sides, but as I say, we did manage to keep Ipswich pretty quiet. They started to try a few long balls, but they didn't really amount to anything, and around the 30-minute mark the match started to really open up. We hit the post on the stroke of half hour, with Powell's near post corner being flicked on by Cook and rattling the far post unattended before the ball was cleared off of the line by none other than Don Ball, of course. 3 minutes later it was Amari Hutchinson threatening up at the other end, with Powell's missed clearance into the box nettling at his feet, but Begovic made another strong save. A lot of our play, as you'd expect, was being run by Chair, who I thought had a really strong half. At one point he drew a clever yellow card from Connor Chaplin after pirouetting out of space, and he caused a lot of problems down that left hand side, though you could tell the Ipswich defence had been instructed not to let him cut in on the right. Overall, a pretty balanced half, maybe slightly in Rangers' favour, but a positive display. We had a lot of the ball, we produced some good moves, but as usual we just lacked that striker's touch. I did feel though if we can make sure that we don't switch off in the second half, we might be able to nick something here over a pretty depleted Ipswich side. Now at the start of the second half, Paul Smith would come on for Chris Willock, a move I would imagine is down to injury and fitness rather than anything tactical, and we continued brightly despite the change. It was all QPR for the opening 10 minutes until a threatening Ladapo header sailed past the post on 53 minutes. Much like the first half, another early reminder that Ipswich can spring into attack at any moment. But just 1 minute later, Elias Chair would once again pick the pocket of Brandon Williams before sending in an excellent cross to the back post, but neither Armstrong or Smith had gone to that back post. There was a little bit of frustration shown between the 3 of them there, and I guess that kind of sums up our fortunes at the moment, players not really on the same wavelength. We stayed resolute at the back though, 2 very strong tackles from Sam Field and Steve Cook, breaking up Ipswich's counter-attacks. And you did sense that this almost backed Ipswich off after these really strong tackles. They started to misplace the ball, they were getting sloppy, and they couldn't exploit the spaces that they usually would. Around the hour mark, the game started to open up again. First with Armstrong having a shot blocked, then Marcus Harness. A little bit of Rangers complacency started to set in soon enough, with Ipswich buoyed by a triple substitution, hassling our defence out of the ball but unable to utilise it. On 62 minutes, Elijah Dixon-Bonner made way for Lyndon Dykes, and I was initially pleased to see that Marty had gone to 2 two up top, I'm not really a big fan of always changing like for like, particularly when it comes to the strikers. That was until Lyndon Dykes didn't touch the ball for about 20 minutes. You honestly couldn't tell that he'd actually been subbed on. In his absence, our attacking play was coming from Armstrong and Smith really, the latter of which had two excellent chances to score. The first was on 65 minutes when Powell looped an excellent ball over the top to Dazelle, who then played a really sharp cross into Paul Smith in the box, who almost didn't realise how good a ball it was and hit the ball wide. Now at the time it really looked like an attempt that he should have scored from, but the keeper did do very well. 2 minutes later, Smith picks the ball up again from Begovic's goal kick, bombs down the right channel, cuts through 3 players marking him, and looked to set the ball square to be attacked. But instead, having felt the hand of a defender, did probably the worst dive I've seen in a while. Really frustrating because it felt like a really good attacking opportunity and the ref dismissed it straight away. Unfortunately, on 70 minutes, with Ipswich increasing the pressure, Steve Cook went down with an injury and he was replaced by Jimmy Dunn, who then made an important block when Hutchinson cut in on his right 5 minutes later. To make matters worse, Chair also went down with an injury and he left the pitch as part of a double sub, with Lakesh coming on for him and Ryan Colley coming on for Armstrong. Hopefully Chair's injury isn't too bad. It would be pretty typical that he doesn't get called up for AFCON but then gets sidelined through injury. QPR, with their attack now considerably blunted, weathered the storm. And as the game came to a close, I was just hoping that anything would go in our favour. And I thought that call had been answered right at the end of 8 minutes of added time, when Cannon's last hopeful cross went into the box and was blatantly handballed by Caden Jackson right in front of the referee, and a penalty wasn't given. I don't think there's been a single video this season where I have blamed the outcome on a referee, but that is absolutely shocking. But then again, this is the same referee that sent off Begovic in the Leeds match. Thankfully, Aluko missed his following shot up the other end and the whistle was blown for full time. A pretty balanced game all in all, and one that we fared much better in than I had expected, but with a considerably weakened Ipswich side, Cook hitting the post, Smith missing a great chance, and not being given a pretty blatant penalty, it really feels like we should have come away with 3 points. It was a much better performance than Tuesday, and a good point against a team that have lost just once at Portman Road this season, especially given we're basically playing without a striker at this point. And that's partially what makes this team so frustrating. If you play like that on Tuesday against Millwall, you do not come away empty-handed. Anyway, that's the end of a pretty dismal year for QPR. Let's hope we can kick off 2024 with a win against Cardiff, and that Chair and Cook's injuries aren't too bad, and that we have some money to get some early recruits in next month. This was, after all, another match that we didn't score in. Anyway, as usual, thank you so much for watching. Do let me know your own thoughts in the comments, and please like and subscribe if you haven't already. I also wanted to just say a massive thank you for those who have subscribed already. I just passed 500 subscribers yesterday. I only started this account 6 months ago, so really pleased to have hit this, and hopefully we can make the channel bigger and better next year. Cardiff preview video to follow tomorrow. See you then.